Hello and welcome to Social Science Weekly, where we take the most important social science papers, giving you just the facts and none of the spin. The paper we're looking at today has the title, Twitter's Algorithm, Amplifying Anger, Animosity and Effective Polarization. Now this paper was published on Archive in 2023, which means that at the time of recording, this paper has not yet gone through the normal peer review process. And the authors on this paper are Smitha Milia, Micah Carroll, Sashrika Pandey, Yike Wang, and Anka D. Dragon. And all of these authors are from either Cornell Tech or Berkeley universities in the United States. Okay, let's get started. Now, Twitter plays a big role in how many of us stay informed and connect with the world, so it's vital to understand how the information we receive on Twitter is being curated. This paper sheds light on the workings of Twitter's ranking algorithm and how it shapes our online experience, especially in the political sphere. And these results from the paper matter to all of us who use social media or just care about the quality of public discourse. Many other studies rely on things like simulations or obtaining data from like internal access provided by the social media platforms themselves, which creates concerns about conflicts of interest and just the accuracy of the results. This study, on the other hand, uses some of Twitter's own features that allow users to switch between the personalized algorithmic feed and just the standard chronological feed. Chronological meaning you just see the latest tweets that were posted from the people that you follow. And this approach that the authors take, it lets them compare the two types of feeds in a real-world setting with actual real users. So the insights are a little bit more practical. And they collected these two possible Twitter timelines for roughly 800 Twitter users, and then asked them their reactions to tweets from the algorithmically selected channel, and then also from the standard chronological one with no algorithmic selection. And they used this data to see if people reacted differently to tweets that were selected for them by Twitter's algorithm. Now let's explore what the data can tell us and what it can't tell us. The data was collected over 2 weeks in February 2023, and the researchers recruited active Twitter users in the United States. For each of these users, they captured the top 10 tweets the personalized Twitter algorithm gave them, and then also the top 10 tweets that these users would have seen had they been following the unmodified chronological feed. The researchers ensured that the only variable between the two sets of tweets that they looked at was because of the use of the algorithm or non-use of the algorithm. So it's kind of like a controlled experiment. So the authors managed to collect 1,731 pairs of timelines from 806 unique participants. They then mixed up all these tweets and presented them to the participant in a random order and asked for their reactions to those tweets using a survey. So just in terms of the demographics, the authors showed that the Twitter users in their study closely mirrored the profile of a typical Twitter user, with reference to a recent Pew study that you can get in the description of this episode. The demographic characteristics such as education level, political leaning, and gender ratio, this all provides confidence that their sample are representative of the Twitter users as a whole. That said, there are limitations to this study, like there are limitations to every study. So first of all, a user's responses to the algorithmically selected tweets in their own timeline is kind of unique to them. It's not to say that somebody else, a different person, would have responded in the same way. So also, while the population is representative of Twitter users in their study, it is not representative of the whole US population. People on Twitter are higher in certain characteristics, such as education level and left-wing political leaning. So folks on Twitter are only representative of Twitter, not necessarily representative of the broader politically engaged population. Now, another thing to bear in mind is that this is all about how the participants perceive tweets. It doesn't say anything about how they actually behave themselves, whether they're on Twitter or in real life. For example, the authors look at political tweets separately to other tweets in their analysis, right? And how do they determine whether something is a political tweet or not a political tweet? Well, they just ask the participant. They ask the participant to say whether the tweet is about a social or political issue. So again, this is just based on the way that they perceive the tweet kind of subjectively. And the last thing is that the researchers compared only the top 10 tweets in each of the personalized feed and the chronological feed. So it is possible that they may have seen something slightly different if they had looked at more of the tweets in their feed. Now on to the findings. First, the research revealed that the algorithm in question does indeed select for emotional content. The algorithmically selected tweets were perceived by the participants to be from someone who was very angry and to a lesser extent somebody who was sad and anxious. And this is actually reflected in how the users themselves were made to feel by these tweets. In terms of the political tweets, so again, they separated political tweets from the rest of the tweets, and anger was a particularly dominant emotion in those political tweets. Now, the second finding is that the algorithmic Twitter feeds led to more political animosity, such as promotion of tweets that were more, or perceived to be more politically partisan, perceived to promote more animosity to the other political side, and good feelings towards your own side. The third finding, which is quite a weird one, is that users in general indicated a preference for tweets that were selected by the algorithm. So people preferred the algorithmically selected tweets. Again, just self-reported. However, this wasn't true for political tweets. So they actually, people had a preference for political tweets from the chronological non-algorithmic feed. So Twitter's algorithm gives people a better experience, but not for political content specifically. And finally, the Twitter algorithm did not lead to echo chambers, where users are exposed to, primarily views that align with their own. In fact, the data showed that the algorithm actually slightly increased exposure to content from the other political side, which makes it all the more interesting that despite this, animosity towards the other political side, went up. It was perceived to go up. Okay, so wrapping up. Twitter's ranking algorithm has been under the microscope and examined using a clever approach that leverages the platform's own features around personalized and non-personalized algorithmic Twitter feeds. We've discovered that Twitter's algorithm does select for emotional content. These algorithmically chosen tweets were seen as more emotionally charged, primarily charged with the emotion of anger. Also, users reported that the algorithmic Twitter feeds fueled political animosity towards the other side. Despite this, though, users actually generally preferred algorithmically selected tweets. However, this was not true for political tweets, where they preferred the chronological default setting. That's where you just see the most recent political news. And whilst we often worry about echo chambers, the Twitter algorithm actually slightly increased exposure to views from the other political side. However, as we've already seen, this didn't temper the rise in kind of outgroup animosity in the people that saw those tweets. Okay, we'll provide a link to this paper and other interesting resources in the description below. If you found this useful, please like and subscribe. It helps us out and it means that we can make more of this content. And to keep up to date with Social Science Weekly, you can get us on various social media. And that's it for Social Science Weekly, bringing you just the facts, none of the spin, from the best and most important social science.